Welcome back to the panel discussion, Women of Washington, Digital Workforce, sponsored by Booz Allen Hamilton on Federal News Radio 1500 AM and federalnewsradio.com. My guests today are Renee Wynn, Chief Information Officer, NASA; Dorothy Aronson, Chief Information Officer, National Science Foundation; Vicki Hildebrand, Chief Information Officer, Department of Transportation; Dr. Kelly Fletcher, Acting Chief Information Officer, Department of Navy; and Julie McPherson, Senior Vice President, Booz Allen. Welcome back, ladies. So in this segment, we're going to talk about some of the interesting trends in software development that you guys are seeing and how you're addressing those. So let me start with you, Vicki, because you've spent literally your entire career in private sector, almost 30 some years at HP, right? What lessons have you learned there that you can now bring to the Department of Transportation?
I guess the first one that comes to mind is that things can be done quickly. Speed is possible. We took a $110 billion company 2 years ago and broke it into two, and then divested another 40%, and then divested another 10%, all in the last 2 years. And we did that while we were going through a shared services conversion, and it didn't take a whole lot of time and money to accomplish it. And I see much longer schedules here in the government than are necessary. So that's really the biggest thing, is that speed is possible. You can empower people. There's all kinds of techniques to build things and deploy them quickly and get things done.
So Julie, I see you nodding your head. Sounds like you agree that that some speed can be brought from the private sector to the public sector.
Yeah, I mean, we were just chatting a little bit about, like, part of this process is retraining yourself to think differently about what can be done, right? A lot of times I think we face problems and we think about what our experience has been in the past and how we've solved that problem in the past. And all of those rules don't apply in the future. And so there are really creative ways to leapfrog again how you solve problems. The idea of coming together as hackathons to solve problems, right? Exposing data, using open solutions and not feeling like you have to build everything yourself. Those are accelerants for the way problems get solved today in the business.
Dorothy, how about you?
I think one of the things that's important is to get the whole team focused on the objective. So we're much more powerful when we know what the strategy is, and that goes to having support from above, so that we have consistent a consistent path forward. Often a project will start and stop and start and stop, but if we can get good, solid leadership support, governance, and focus our attentions, and then engage the workforce's hearts in accomplishing the mission. So even if the mission is to consolidate, the more people we have wanting that for the common good, the more creative ideas will come to the group. And I find our group can move very quickly if they know where they want to go.
So what are some of the top skills, either technical skills or otherwise, that your agencies are looking for now? Renee, I'll ask you first.
I think from the CIO perspective, definitely data scientists in that regard, because we've got a ton of data. Big data is actually a little small for us. And so we've got to figure out, and we bring that data in by mission type, and we've got to be able to start looking across that information. When you look at some of the administrative processes, HR information, financial information, I got to start connecting that up as well and go through these lines of business and say, what's that nugget in order to be able to do XYZ faster, or deal with better protecting information from a cyber perspective. And so the data scientist would be incredibly helpful to have. But we need core set of data scientists. Then there's a lot of folks that are really good data analysts. We can help bring them along by partnering them with some of the newer trains of thought, the data scientists that are trained in that, and so then you can get going faster with some of the things. So sometimes it's a blend of bringing in some new talent with your existing talent and getting them to see, as Dorothy said, a new direction in order to solve for some great problems.
Kelly, how about you? What is the Navy looking for in terms of skill sets? What are some of the top skills you are recruiting for?
Yeah, so I would reiterate data scientists actually, but I see the problem as being both I need folks who are experts in data architecture, data standards, the sort of IT side of data science, and then I also need folks who can take this huge amount of data and help consolidate it, whittle it down, and give me something that I can show to a decision maker and say, hey, here are the facts, now let's make a decision. And that's where I see some of our current folks who understand, what are the decisions we need to make, what is our decision space. They can help get our new folks, who are these data scientists, to get us to take the data we have and make it meaningful, right? And this is something we're struggling with.
Dorothy, how about you at NSF?
I agree with both of these ladies, and I think that what we need to do is take it even one step further, which is collecting the data and doing the technology with it, but also the adoption of the technology, of the analytics tools to the workforce. So, and more individuals have questions that they want to answer. So our job as IT people is to get the data and expose it, but also to provide the simple to use tools and ensure that the data that they take is authentic, is the right data. And so there's a lot of customer service and training involved in what we do. The IT itself isn't useful unless people can then use it. The same is true with application development. I think that we see more and more people who have enough skills and enough tools on their phone to develop a little app if we would provide them a way of getting to the functionality. So we've developed a lot of APIs, interfaces between the more complex programs so that end users with their own development tools can grab that. Those are really important things to free up the technology people to do the more complicated work and let the end users create their own way of accessing it.
So it's a different style of software development, though, when you're thinking about an end user population that's actually going to have a role in how they use the data, right? And that I assume that might be on mobile devices. Sure. So how has that changed sort of the process of software development?
Well, we focus very much on, from an application perspective, we focus on capturing data and protecting it and validating it. So we have a program that just validates transactions, for example. And if you, in theory, this hasn't been tested yet, but in theory, if you want to access the program to validate your data, you can do that. We make these pieces of software available to the public so we use them extensively within our own organization so that the look and feel of the applications is consistent, the rules applied when capturing data are consistent, and things like that. Reusing code is very important. So the developers who are doing their thing are thinking in terms of tiny bits of intelligence that they store, and then anyone can use them.
Vicki?
I want to emphasize mobility. So as we look at the skills for the next generation workforce, everything, absolutely everything, is going to be mobile. The monolithic data centers that we have today are going away. You think about edge computing, and we talked earlier about automated vehicles. You don't have time to send a signal back to a data center and then back to a vehicle. It's got to happen where that activity is taking place. Everything has to be on the edge and mobile, and I need people thinking about that as they pursue their career.
It sounds like you're developing already for the Internet of Things.
Oh, that's a big piece of it, absolutely.
Yeah. Julie, I saw you nod on that.
Yeah, I wanted to just jump in on the fact that we are all in our personal lives used to having so much power at our fingertips, right? Everything we want, Amazon, shopping, pizza delivery. The opportunity to have that sort of user-focused experience on all of our workforce tools, I think, is really transformational. Again, it lets you think very differently about what can get done and what should get done. Having built systems for 20 years of my career, it gets really exciting to solve the individual problems, but if you're really taking a user, human-centered design focus to it, it becomes much clearer about what are the highest value tasks from a workforce perspective that need to be performed. So that's been a really exciting sort of transformation in technology.
So how has that changed? You talked about human-centered experience, right? How has that changed the way you think about software design, where sort of back in the old days it was a system was designed to do a certain set of functions, and that was really took what the bulk of the design efforts, and sort of how the users interacted with it was maybe a little bit of an afterthought.
Yeah.
Sounds like that's kind of now been flipped on its head.
It totally has. And right now, I mean, the technology allows us to do completely modular design of our systems that are in what's called microservices. So they're really interchangeable. As you're developing a service and you're defining it, if a new technology or a new solution comes out, you can plug and play those together very rapidly instead of having to redefine interfaces, which is absolutely transformational in the way that we're designing and building systems today.
So when I talked about turning the process on its head, Vicki, I saw your head nodding. It seems like you've got some experience with that as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you really do need, this is one of the reasons why I think the younger generation is where we want to tap some of our talent, because they know what good looks like. You have to start with the outcome, and then you back up and figure out how to build it. But it's a complete reversal of the past.
Renee, how about at NASA?
So one of the things that we've done, so mission ops control, which we do freezes. So we don't do updates when we're getting ready to do launch, and there's certain sets so that we make sure that the entire ecosystem associated with the launch works well. But I was in a mission ops center, and what I noticed is that we also have the ability to change the way the screen works so that the individual who's got some pretty significant responsibilities because of the human life associated with some of our launches, and that is that he or she can change the screen to look the way he or she wants it. And so this is where we need to go, is not be fed a design, this is the way your travel system ought to work, but how do I want it to look when it pops up on my screen so it works as I work best. And so we're beginning with our mission ops control, which does allow for the screen to look the way the user needs it to look in order for he or she to provide the best productivity, and frankly at the end of that is the best safety.
And so, Kelly, sounds like you might have something to add, but specifically you've got some unique challenges at the Navy, because the workforce that you're designing for, in addition to just being huge, is deployed all over the world, and mobile has got to be a part of it in some pretty hard to reach places like ships and subs and.
Right. Absolutely, yeah. So for Marines and for our folks at sea, mobile is hugely important. What I was going to add on is I think it's really interesting to look at how for the Navy we're moving to this human-centered interfaces, right? I'm a human, I need to make decisions, I need to do activities. But I think a lot of what we do, I actually don't want a human in the loop. A machine, it can be automated, right? And it in fact needs to be automated to be at the right speed and at the right pace. So while I both want my apps to be designed for a human to make sure that they're seeing everything they need to see when they're at sea and they're making decisions, I want a lot of decisions, especially in the cybersecurity space, to be automated. I don't want a human in the loop. And so I think we're designing systems to really address that is how fast we need to make some decisions.
So that brings artificial intelligence into the mix, and that also relates to the big data. I think right now we're capturing data that will ultimately be used to help simulate decisions, but we're not at a place yet where we're using artificial intelligence really, at the forefront of what we're doing. But that would be something that I think is going to be evolving the next couple of years. We might actually see some of the work that's being done by people not now being done by machines, but we have to really be aggressive on that in order to incorporate that.
So Julie, we're going to let you have the last word here. We're wrapping up, but as you think about the opportunity that are in front of the federal government in terms of increasing the use of digital, increasing the use of mobile, putting the user experience first, what are a couple of pieces of advice that you would give not only the rest of the panel, but the rest of government as to how they're going to get there from here?
The thing that comes to my mind is this is a complex problem with lots of viewpoints from an ecosystem, and this isn't something that one organization, one company, one perspective can solve. So it really takes great minds like we have on the panel here today and across government to identify how we work together and how we traverse this really complex environment that's changing so rapidly to create all the shared outcomes I think that we've talked a lot about today.
I'd like to thank today's guests, Renee Wynn, Chief Information Officer, NASA, Dorothy Aronson, Chief Information Officer, National Science Foundation, Vicki Hildebrand, Chief Information Officer, Department of Transportation, Dr. Kelly Fletcher, Acting Chief Information Officer, Department of Navy, and Julie McPherson, Senior Vice President, Booz Allen. I'm your moderator, Gigi Schumm, and you're listening to Federal News Radio 1500 AM. For more on this discussion, visit federalnewsradio.com and search Women of Washington.
On behalf of Booz Allen, thank you for joining us. A link to the archive session will be sent to you shortly. This concludes our discussion. Thank you.